I think we can hear you now, Ryan.
Please rise if you're able. Welcome to the Iowa City Noon Rotary Club. Thank you for braving the elements today and showing up for a great speaker. We will go ahead and get our meeting started the way we traditionally do with America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for space, the skies forever,
waves of grain, or purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown my good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America,
to the republic,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Please remain standing if you could. It's sad news to pass along that Dan McGivern has passed away. He was almost to his 20th year in our club and really supported the Ronald McDonald golf outing in a big way. I remember seeing him in the clubhouse, and he was just he loved golf, you could tell that, and really loved, kind of hanging out afterwards too. And then also, this is a little late, but the thousands and thousands of families in Turkey and Syria still struggling after just a massive couple of earthquakes. So let's have a moment of silence for them as well. You may be seated. Okay, do we have any guests or visiting Rotarians today? I see at least a guest or two, and Barb Thomas coming up to introduce that person.
Well, Ryan, that would actually be persons, as in that is right. Snowy day. I have two guests. That's right. So my first guest is Wayne Brewer. Wayne, why don't you stand up? Wayne is with Yoshi Construction. They do both residential and commercial renovations and projects. So if you have a need, please see Wayne. And the other charming, handsome man is actually my son, Justin Thomas. All right, thanks.
The infamous Justin Thomas. Welcome to both of you. Usha has a guest on Zoom, I believe.
Well, I do not know whether my guests showed up on Zoom yet, but if they have shown up, they are Dr. Kelly Baker, who is a physician, research scientist, and a super communicator who will be attending our meeting in person on March 30th as well. She's a professor in the University of Iowa College of Public Health and is doing interesting work on enteric diseases in Kenya. And then Dr. Roger Williamson may have also joined us. He's a retired physician scientist who wrote a fabulous book recently. He'll probably come to our club one of these days in person as well. And I will be introducing Dr. Marty Schultz. Marty, this will be the last time you're introduced as a guest, since he'll be inducted into our Rotary, and also our speaker today, Dr. Aron Aji, a little bit later in the program. Thank you.
Due to the inclement weather, we do have about 22 guests on, not guests, but members on Zoom as well. So welcome to our Zoomers. Thank you for tuning in. We will go ahead and sing our second song now that Devin has effectively taken a bite of food. We're gonna sing what? Smile today? All right, let's sing Smile. Everybody's favorite song. Smile. Boom. Nice. Gets the energy going. Okay, we are already into the announcements phase of our meeting. If you have a Rotary related announcement, please come forward. Linda Farkas is going to get us kicked off here.
I am so excited. All of you knew that many of you contributed to our, is it dine in or dine out at Stella's to raise money for Rotary Youth Leadership. This is the check we just got from them. I did a poll when I walked in, and pretty much everybody but Margaret Reese, who I really like your number better, but said about $500 is probably what we got. We got $1,180 for our Rotary Youth Leadership Program. So everybody go to Stella, spend a lot of money. And I really thank the fundraising committee, Patty McCarthy and everybody for all the help that they did to get everybody there. JJ did a nice piece, JJ, if you're on. So anyway, thank you. And I think it's a good idea to raise money this way.
Good job, Linda, and everybody who dined out for a cause or dined in or took carry out. I took carry out the first week, so that counts too. A couple other announcements. Our DEI committee was in, over the weekend, there was pets training, and the fact that our club is ahead of the game with already having a DEI committee kind of put us into a little bit of a unique situation. It was really encouraging to know that we're leading the way and really, you know, I feel like our club should, as big as we are and forward thinking as we tend to be. So it's just really refreshing to know that folks across the entire district are all focusing on this, across the entire world with Rotary International focusing on it. And our DEI committee has already produced an official statement of diversity, equity, inclusion, and they're going to unveil that to the club here soon. But it's just exciting to know that that committee only started maybe 6 or 8 months ago, and they're just really rocking and rolling and making good change. We have some service project opportunities coming up. When you look at our survey results from our all club member survey, service projects were a big thing that you all wanted. So we are delivering in a big way coming up here in a month and a half. Wow. April 22nd and 23rd. The 22nd is the day of our Rotary District Conference. That morning, Margaret Reese will be creating soon a link for you to sign up for your choice of what type of service club you want to do that morning, starting at around 9 or 10 a.m. You're going to have the option to help at Open Heartland. You could plant some trees. There are some painting projects going on for a Habitat for Humanity house, which is awesome. It's just a really well, covered opportunity. I feel like that just offers everybody something. So April 22nd is all of that. And then again, on April 23rd, through our District 6000 grant, we will be planting another grove of trees. So one on Saturday, another one on Sunday afternoon. And again, that sign up link will come out soon and you'll have more details from there. And neither are here. Maybe they're on Zoom today if we're lucky, but we need to call attention. We have 2 members of our club who were chosen for the CBJ Women of Influence list. That's an annual list they come out with influential women around the corridor, and both Brianna Wills and Tice Winkleblack have been named to that list this year. So let's give them a hand. That is all for announcements. We will now induct a brand new member into our club, Marty and Usha and Greg's as well. He's such a coveted Rotarian that he had 2 sponsors. And we're going to allow them to introduce Marty to the club, and then I'll say a few moments afterwards.
Thank you, President Ryan. Along with Rotarian Greg Tomopoulos, I'm very honored and happy today to sponsor Dr. Marty Schultz into our to help President Ryan to induct Dr. Marty Schultz into our Iowa City Noon Rotary Club. Greg's.
Thank you, Usha. Marty moved to Iowa City just a few months before the COVID pandemic. In June 2019, Marty became Vice President for Research at the University of Iowa. After a Bachelor's of Science degree in chemistry at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, a PhD in chemistry from the University of California, Berkeley, and a postdoc at Stanford University, Marty joined the faculty of Texas A&M in 1993. He has taught courses in medical biochemistry, biophysics, cell biology, and spectroscopy.
Focusing on fundamental research relating to the folding, stability, and solubility of proteins and peptides, Marty's work has been supported by the National Institutes of Health, the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, in addition to foundations and industrial sponsors. Having myself worked at the University of Iowa's Vice President for Research Office for more than 17 years, way back in my 20s and 30s, I look forward to many conversations with someone like Marty around the challenges of broadening the impacts of academic research.
Well, Usha and I are very delighted that Marty is joining our Rotary Club.
And we are all delighted as well, Marty, to have you. You have been approved for membership because we believe and know you are a worthy representative of your vocation, interested in the ideals of Rotary, and willing to do your share in translating those ideals into action. You should know we are a non-political, non-discriminatory, and non-denominational club. Really, our impact starts with our members, and there are 1.2 million friends around the world, all involved in Rotary. We use the term JET, J-E-T, to describe what we do so well, which is join leaders, exchange ideas, and then take action. So we welcome you as our newest Rotarian and look forward to getting to know you better. If at the end of our meeting, you could make your way to the back door or the door, we'll greet you on the way out. Marty, welcome to the club, my friend. Yes, please stand. All right. Yep. Oh, don't go too far, Usha. We are now at the program stage of our meeting. So Usha is going to come right back on up here and introduce our guest speaker.
It is my further delight to introduce our program speaker for today. Dr. Aron Aji joined the University of Iowa in 2014, and I met him at a party in 2015 that had been hosted by Dr. Resme Oral, who used to be in our club and then moved out of Iowa City. But my friendship with Aron continued on. Aron is the director of MFA in Literary Translation and an associate professor of instruction in the Division of World Languages, Literatures, and Cultures in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at the University of Iowa. He leads the translation workshop and teaches courses on retranslation, poetry and translation, theory, and contemporary Turkish literature. A native of Turkey, Aron has translated the works of prominent Turkish writers One of his translations led to a Global Humanities Translation Prize from Northwestern University Press in 2022. Aron was president of the American Literary Translators Association between 2016 to 2019. So how did this program come about? In 2022, I was talking to one of my retired professor friends, Dr. Philip Lutkendorf, who told me about Aron's new grant. And I was so thrilled to hear that he and his team of colleagues across campus had won one of the largest humanities grants in Iowa, over $1 million from the US Department of Education. In other scientific fields, $1 million may not mean much in the sense that they get very large amounts. But I think for humanities, this is quite an achievement. Wouldn't you agree, Marty? So that calls for already a round of applause for our program speaker. So here's Dr. Aji to tell us more about this newly funded Center for Translation and Global Literacy. Around.
Is it possible for me to see this as well? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know, I will. Nope, I know. This way? Oh, very nice. Oh, there we are. Thank you so much. I am so honored and delighted to be here. In the midst of so many of you who are, in fact, dedicated to intercultural relations and understanding and collaboration. And translation, as some of you already know, is vital to the way we do our work with, across cultures. And I thought I would just sort of give you a very quick overview of what we've been up to in the University of Iowa. And I'm going to go all the way back 60 years, but it's not going to be a very long presentation, I promise, because I think it's important for us to appreciate where we have come. And the way to do that is to perhaps look back to where we began. So the beginnings are probably very familiar to many of you. We began as part of an effort to bring international writers to the writers' workshop during the time of Paul Engel. And 1963, the first translation workshop ever offered in the US was offered here in Iowa City. And in 1967, the International Writing Program became an official program of the university. And our translation workshop, in fact, has been going on fairly uninterrupted for 60 years. Every fall, this workshop is offered as part of the International Writing fall residency. And what we do is our students work with the international writers in order to help them prepare what will become their first portfolio to promote their own work in the English language. And in 1974, the MFA in Literary Translation began at the University of Iowa. And it was co-founded by Gayatri Spivak, no less, a UNESCO world philosopher, and one of the most important, and I cannot exaggerate this, one of the most important comparative literature scholars in the world, who was here. And in fact, this was her first job, and she came all the way up to being a professor at Iowa, and then left us. But in the process, she co-founded with Danny Weisbord, who was at the time the director of the translation workshop, the Iowa Translation Workshop with IWP. And what this is so important is that we begin now celebrating a double anniversary. In fact, during the Iowa City of Literature Book Festival, we're going to be the most public about it, where we celebrate the 60th anniversary of the translation workshop and the 50th anniversary of our MFA in literary translation. These are incredibly important milestones. Wherever I go elsewhere in the country, everyone says that's where all began in terms of translation. And it is really this legacy that I so wanted to carry on when I accepted the position that I have now. So translation at Iowa today, we have really broadened our footprint, so to speak. We have, since 1963, as I said, the translation workshop still going strong. We have the MFA still going strong. But we also added an undergraduate minor in translation for global literacy. And the title is very deliberately descriptive. What we are talking about is learning about translation, both as a subject matter, but also as an art and craft, as a form of global literary skill, literacy skill. In fact, one cannot become a global citizen without understanding how languages interface with one another. So this was, in fact, the beginning of our undergraduate journey. And then we also started a graduate certificate in literary translation because we were inundated by students from all the other writing programs who wanted to take our courses because their communities are also becoming more and more international or heritage speakers. And so we started a program just for them. It's a graduate certificate. And then this fall, just a few months ago, we inaugurated a BA in translation, which is the first of its kind in a Research One institution in the United States. And, you know, when it rains, thank you. We also got this grant that Usha mentioned. At the same time, I wish we didn't, but not the grant, but that it didn't happen at the same time, because we were hoping that the BA would start the year before. But, you know, one of the things the academic institutions have not figured out how to do is move fast. I will not comment on that anymore. But we have these now, and it's really an amazing constellation of programs. And just to give you an idea, any given year, approximately 150 or more students are taking courses with us. And our BA in translation had a very nice start. We have already 18 majors. And this just through word of mouth, because we could not promote the program until it was approved by the Board of Regents. So this happened just this one semester. So we're very hopeful that it will grow. Now, the BA in translation is animated by this little paragraph. Let me just read it to you. You can read it yourself too, but let me read it anyway. For globally minded students, a major in translation is an ideal complement to other programs of study, especially world language programs and those programs that focus on international topics. As some of you may already know very well, world language training at the university as well as secondary schools are under great threat. We're disappearing. And this is an alarming development for all of us, because, you know, we have this very false understanding that, oh, everyone's going to speak English sooner or later. But when I speak English, and you can see even the way my voice is shaking, this is not my native tongue. It's a straitjacket we are expecting everyone to wear. And then what happens is that the relations between cultures are not, you know, at equal level. So there is, in fact, you know, a disparity between the so-called collaboration, coexistence that we so promote in our programs, when we expect the people we're trying to help to remain, in fact, in a position of needing help at all times. And that's a big paradox. So we're trying to remedy that. So there is a growing demand for language mediation to foster exchange and collaboration in our increasingly interconnected global community. Now, let me give you just one little fact. Anytime you turn on CNN, 99% of the world news come to you in translation. Every time you are interested in world affairs, every time you think about the global supply chain and its interruptions, you're really talking about translation and how important it is. Your cell phones, our cell phones, are made in at least 7 different countries, the materials in them. And we can expect everyone to know English, but let us remember that those who are working in the factories producing these parts are not university graduates. They don't know English. So the information has to be conveyed to them and back from them in English. In Iowa as well, we have in the manufacturing center great many migrant and newly naturalized citizens, and creating an environment in which they are truly welcome and included requires that we make language access also a crucial element of our efforts. So this is a little bit of a soapbox, but you know, that's what I've been doing for the past 8 years, so forgive me. I cannot talk about anything else. You know, like when people start talking about baseball. Students with a translation BA are well placed to serve this demand. In fact, Forbes anticipates about 20,000 jobs in the next 5 years in language mediation. And US Bureau of Labor Statistics also corroborates that. And what the BA in translation is trying to do is give an interdisciplinary major that combines foundational translation training, global cultural study, and proficiency in world languages. In fact, any student who is graduating with the BA from us will have to attain the highest level of proficiency available in that language at the University of Iowa. In some ways, in fact, a student majoring in translation will go further than even some other majors with global interests. Of course, this is also a little bait and switch. Is that what we say? Why? Because we think that once the student gets that far, they will take the handful more courses necessary to major in the languages as well. So there's a little bit of a smart work here, I hope. It can be pursued alongside any major. It's a very, very nimble major, and it can be pursued with any major at the university, including business, including global health, public health. And professionalization is key. We have applied learning opportunities and community outreach opportunities. And the goal is to encourage in our field what has been common in all fields. You first get an undergraduate foundational education in the humanities, and then move to a graduate program in your subspecialization. So if you want to become a translator of legal discourse, then you go to a master's degree there, or if you want, you can go translation in the medical field, translation for business, so on and so forth. The US is the only country in the developed world that does not have translation in the undergraduate curriculum. Just think about the disadvantage we have. I don't want to repeat this because it depresses me every time I say it, but it is true. All of our European counterparts, the European Union is just pouring money to interlinguistic mediation. And so now the new center. The Center for Translation and Global Literacy is the first national resource center that has been awarded in the field of translation and global literacy. And it is our first since last 25 years. So we've been behind as a university, especially in the humanities, especially in foreign language and international education area. And what we have is a very, very big ambition. We want to become a pedagogy and research hub that aims to make significant impact on translation and global literacy education across K through 12, undergraduate and graduate study. We want to be the epicenter of translation training. And we already are making very good progress because we're one of the very few universities where a student can go through 6 years of education from undergraduate to a master's. For an education for global citizenship that equips students with the knowledge and skills that are essential to succeed in the increasingly complicated global world through deep and transformative engagement. Very inspiring words, I hope, but also we hold to these very seriously. And, oh, what a bad slide. So right now, what we are trying to do here through the center include curriculum and faculty development. We are trying to develop a whole new set of courses, but also developing faculty members' own skill set to incorporate language mediation and awareness of the importance of language as an intercultural throughway. And toward that, we have workshops. We just finished 2 incredible workshops. We had 20 faculty members in the faculty workshop, which was beyond my dreams. We would have been perfectly happy even with 10. We had 20 of them. And we had our first K through 12 workshop session, which is a 3-session workshop series that we're going to be doing. This is also very important because what we're trying to do is encourage the study of language and, more importantly, encourage the study of language through translation pedagogy in the high schools so that we have also a way to get interest developed earlier rather than coming in. We have a very interesting situation at the university. About 50% of students who come to the university come having completed their world language requirement. And virtually none of them majors in languages. Just imagine spending 4 years of learning something and then deciding to stop. Surely there is something wrong there, or at least there is something we can change. So the idea is to figure out a way to change that trend. These are 2,000 plus students who do not continue learning language after having been in the classroom for 4 years. And we are going to hopefully also branch out to counselors in training. We are going to also offer community translation workshops because much of the translation needs and interpreting needs are done by heritage speakers who volunteer. And so we're going to try to help them with those as well. And then we will have 2 summer institutes on teaching and translation and global writing in undergraduate curriculum. Yes, to develop our competition. We want programs like this everywhere in the United States. Because again, our aim is not to just sort of single ourselves out, but to develop a field that badly needs developing in the United States. And we are also working to build a very big virtual library of resources. This is a very quick and dirty slide project. I was just thinking, what can I say to sort of why I am here? Obviously, this is of interest to you. But it is also very important for us to sort of look at what's going on in translation at the University of Iowa as an important community asset. We are very interested in recruiting students with heritage language knowledge. You know, for most heritage language speakers, they face a paradox. On the one hand, they have an asset. They have a global asset. They know another language. More importantly, they know another culture. On the other hand, we stigmatize that to the extent that they think to advance professionally, they have to actually forget their language, heritage language, or suppress it. And that just doesn't connect. That doesn't compute for me. As you can hear from my accent, you know, I am a heritage speaker, you know, and I have found an incredible, rich profession because of my heritage language. You know, I have become the translator that I am because I know Turkish. I was one of the earliest literary translators who translated into their second language from their first language, because typically it's poo-pooed because they say, you know, you have to know your target language very well, and so it has to be your native language. Well, not necessarily. So in any case, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I would very much ask you to imagine ways in which you can help us. We have an advisory board there we are going to establish next year for the center. I would love to hear from you if you're interested in helping us. I don't have to tell you the financial needs of this huge undertaking. And as importantly, send us students. Okay, thank you. Yes? Well, very good. How many native languages are spoken on Iowa campus, University of Iowa campus, and are students looking for internships? I do not know exactly the number on campus, but I will tell you that in Iowa City School District and Coralville School District, there are approximately 60 plus heritage languages spoken. And I would imagine the university campus, the number would be even larger because we have also international students. Secondly, one of the most important distinguishing features of RBA is that we require applied learning. We expect our students to do either a community-based project or an internship in an organization or a business where they will be engaged in language mediation projects or tasks. Yeah. So we would love to hear from you. I think that would be wonderful. We're just very new, right? So in fact, we have a very interesting development. One of the world's largest translation companies, global translation and language mediation companies, is starting to hire its own translators rather than using the standard freelance translators. And we started talking. And I said, well, we only have first-year students this semester. We just started, right? But I said, we can work with you on a translation, on an internship project. Then you can shadow and grow your own employees. And they're very excited, and we are working to develop that. But yeah, I mean, our hope is that this program is going to need approximately 70 internships each year within maybe 2 or 3 years. Yes? Yes, very much so. Yeah. Yes. 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 Absolutely. Yeah, the question is a very, very fine question. How can we give an MFA, which is a creative degree that emphasizes creativity, in a field that is in fact reproducing or interpreting someone else's creative work? I can talk about this for 8 hours. First of all, translation is not about, literary translation is not about carrying a bunch of apples from one orchard to the other. There is incredible amount of artistry to it. We have to translate the style, the diction, the voice, the characters, everything that is in a text, we have to somehow recreate. The way we define what we do is the following. The creative art and the critical reflective practice of literary translation. And every one of those words, creativity, critical reading, reflection, and literary translation. These 5 things are equally crucial. In fact, you know, one of the things is when you read a literary text in translation and you say, oh, it feels like it was written in English. How do you think that happened? Because I assure you, anyone who is not paying attention to the creative dimension of it will not be able to produce a translation that you will say, oh, it reads like it was written in English. So this is a very, very short answer, but I also would invite you to come and sit in one of our workshops. And also this is why a lot of our MFA programs in creative writing, in writing, fiction, poetry, are flocking to our program. Because in fact, one of them said, not one of them, my workshop this year is very interesting. We have 10 students. 6 of them are in fact writers workshop students. 4 of them are translation students. And I said, why did you sign up? And you know what they said? Because we were told that this workshop pays attention to language and style in ways that we don't get to in our creative writing workshops. Because we can't otherwise. You know, our goal is to read a text from inside out, right? And finally, MFA is a studio degree. It's also available in the arts and music, right? And indeed, that's also the practicum side of things that makes the literary translation a master of fine art. It's a very fine art. Okay, thank you. That's a very good question. Yes? Yeah. So that's a very good question. Another misunderstanding is that we can teach translation only inside specific pairs of languages. And that's really not true, because it would be something like saying we can teach carpentry only with people who use cedar. Right. We teach carpentry hoping that they will be able to use whatever wood they are using, right? Now, it's a very crucial question. One of the incredible dimensions of our legacy at the University of Iowa as the home of the translation workshop is that we invented the multilingual workshop. So I don't speak the 10 languages that my students are translating from in the workshop. Just to give you an idea of what languages we're talking about, it's amazing. We have Spanish, which I do speak, and we have French, which I also do speak. But then we have German, we have Albanian, we have Hebrew, we have Vietnamese, we have Amharic. What am I missing? So anyway, it's an incredible situation. So that's one thing. The other thing is this. It is absolutely true that the US is at a disadvantage that we do not begin the language training of our students or of our youth early enough. You're absolutely right. The Dutch speak English day one almost, right? They say milk. That is a disadvantage. But when you're trying to catch up, you don't have the luxury of starting from scratch. So what we're doing instead is, in fact, targeting these two communities. One, those students who have completed 4 years of training in languages in high schools, and two, heritage speakers. Now, their language skills are rough. Now, that we can improve on. And so that's the plan. Yes? Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't know I had such a special life when I was growing up. And in fact, interestingly, in most of the countries in the world, no one is monolingual. If you just think about it, no one is monolingual, either by exposure or by use. Everyone is in a multilingual environment. Take someone like Ukraine or Poland. to just not think about a very sad moment Ukraine is going through. Think about Poland. They speak Polish. And then almost invariably, they speak German and Russian. But also, they speak indigenous languages that they also had. We think of indigenous languages only in terms of First Nations, but it's not. I mean, every country had multiple First Nations. So in fact, in Turkey, I thought I was so unique, but I wasn't. A lot of people in Turkey spoke Arabic, Persian, Kurdish, Armenian, Ladino. I spoke Ladino, the Spanish, right? Armenian, Greek, Russian. So one moment, I will see you. So the goal is here to also cultivate an awareness of this incredible resource, because neurolinguists are very much interested in what they call the bilingual mind. Yes. Yes, right. Absolutely. In fact, we had no choice. We had no choice. I mean, every school in Turkey, every secondary school in Turkey has a second language curriculum, and we have no choice, right? But the interesting thing is, you mentioned an Arab country. What we call modern standard Arabic, is actually an invented language. Every country has its own Arabic language, which we sort of loosely call dialects. So in a way, by language, we are not simply talking about two dramatically different languages, but again, different, traversing intellectually and creatively across different vocabularies, different grammars, different sounds. Sounds are so important, right? So, yes. Yes? Correct. Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. So the question is, there is a difference between translation and interpreting, and I emphasize greatly the translation side and not the interpreting. And the question is there room for interpreting also in the program? And you also mentioned something that I would like to sort of comment on. The undergraduate degree is not in literary translation. It is, in fact, all modes of translation across the humanities. But students will also be exposed to all modes of translation in business and technical and legal and medical and so on and so forth. Now, about translation and interpreting, you caught me. When we put this program together, we just noticed that what we have in place is a very strong textual translation faculty. And we are going to be developing the interpreting. That's also why I want to talk to you. The interpreting branch we are going to develop, because that's a very, very crucial part of translation as global literacy. And we have a course called Translation and Global Society, where I had a whole unit on interpreting. And we considered what happens in a court situation, what happens in a hospital situation, and so on and so forth. But we are, in fact, very much intent on creating a more solid thread of coursework in interpreting as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Aaron. That was fascinating. And we are all more intelligent as a result of that. And also, on your behalf, we will donate to the Polio Plus program and put 70 new polio vaccines out into the world. So thank you very much for your time. We will wrap up with the four-way test. If you could stand. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Friendships will be beneficial to all concerned.
Drive safe.